Hey, how many people are you expecting?
Relax, it's an open invite.
I think you're a few seats short.
Yeah, like 14 seats.
You should enter your eligible New York Lottery draw game tickets with Collect and Win. You could win a $5,000 gift card to use at the Home Depot and buy a bigger table to host.
Hopefully they also sell chairs.
The Home Depot is not a sponsor of this promotion. You must be 18 years or older to purchase a lottery ticket. You must be 21 or older to purchase a quick draw ticket where alcoholic beverages are served. Please play responsibly. Entered by 1-7-20.
Hello and welcome into Week 14 of the NFL season. The season is flying by, and it's another Saturday, which means we are back with the consistently Cashin podcast that you can find not only at BigGuyFantasySports.com, but also over at the Full-Time Fantasy Podcast Network. We are a proud member over there, and we are just one of many great podcasts over there. So make sure you're checking everything out, as there's stuff to help you out regardless of whatever type of league setting, format, scoring system, number of people that you're in. A lot of great people over there as well. So make sure you interact with all of them and us on Twitter. Find me on Twitter, Colby Conway, at Colby R. Conway. Usually I have Ron Rigney with me at The Real Made, but he is sick and currently has no voice, which will be interesting at his house with a couple kids running around. So hopefully he can recover from that and feel better. But he sent over all of his information for this week, so I have it all right in front of me as well. So I'll go ahead and go through, just some of the things that we normally talk about here on this podcast, starting with the games that we're targeting and avoiding, and then moving into more player-centric talk. So I'll go ahead and start here with the games that I am targeting for Week 14 in terms of fantasy appeal. Looking at some of it, Panthers-Falcons has a lot of interesting pieces, sides of both sides of the football there. Really like the Atlanta running attack and the Carolina passing attack in this one. Continuing to move down a little bit more. Lions-Vikings is very interesting from the Vikings side of the football. Just need to see if we can get any news with Dalvin Cook and Alexander Mattison. Dolphins-Jets is exciting because both offenses are good enough to keep people fantasy relevant, and both defenses are bad enough to help boost those numbers. So those are a couple games that I'm certainly interested in and would like to get some exposure to. Games that I am avoiding. I just can't really seem to get anybody from those games. The Chiefs-Patriots, outside of Sony Michel, I don't really like paying up for anybody in that game. Patriots offense has been a bit sluggish, and the Kansas City offense has a tough matchup against the New England defense, so something to monitor there. 49ers and Saints, 49ers defense is very good, and then the 49ers spread it around so much it's tough to find any pieces that I really want to pay for there. And then lastly, Ravens-Bills, outside of even Lamar Jackson, because the Buffalo defense has been very good, although this is a very different style of offense, so it's something you kind of consider, but you don't really avoid. Outside Lamar Jackson, I'm kind of out on this one, to be 100% honest with you. But we'll move into some of the player talk here. So the favorite high-priced guy of the week. Looking at it here for me, it's tough. I don't really have many super high-priced guys, but I guess I will go with Davante Adams. I mean, the guy is getting targeted. The looks are there. Coming off a great game, which certainly helped our lineups last week. I thought the yardage would be a little bit higher, to be honest with you, but I'll certainly take the 2 touchdowns, 6 grabs for 64 yards and 2 scores last week against the Giants. Now he gets another matchup against an NFC East team, and look at what Adams has done this year against NFC East teams. Against the Eagles, 10 for 180. Against the Giants, 6 for 64 and 2 touchdowns. So he has played well. He's put up numbers, and now he gets to go up against a Redskins defense that isn't very good. Expect Davante Adams to have another great game here. I'm thinking at least 7 grabs for 80 yards and a touchdown or 2. Moving into the mid-tier guys, I'll give you 2 here. I'll give you one of mine and one of Ron's. For me, it's Melvin Gordon. 20 carries and 80-plus yards in 3 of his last 4 games. And Jacksonville's allowed the second most fantasy points per game to opposing running backs over the last 4 weeks. Also, 6 rushing touchdowns during that span. Phillip Rivers' arm is declining. It's obvious. The shot put only lasts for so long. And I believe it was last week there was a route where Mike Williams was wide open downfield. And, Phillip Rivers actually underthrew him considerably, even stepping into the throw. So expect them to continue using Melvin Gordon. Should get some work in the passing game as well. I do envision his ownership being rather high this week. However, I think he's worth it. I think he's a guy that we just can't miss in our lineups. A guy that Ron really likes this week is Stefon Diggs. Hard to disagree. Consistency hasn't quite been there for Diggs this season, but the last time they faced the Lions, Diggs had 7 grabs for 143 yards. Adam Thielen probably will play. We'll have to see. I don't know. This guy, he doesn't want to come back until he's healthy, which I totally get. But if he does play, I mean, I still think it helps Diggs. And he's going to probably be out again anyway, so it's not that it matters. So Diggs will be the beneficiary of all of the targets. Lions are allowing the 10th most fantasy points to the position, and there should be some points scored in this game. So I totally get the Stefon Diggs love. We'll move into the favorite low-price guys of the week. We'll go ahead and give you 2 here as well. Darius Geis, not super low-priced. However, he's seen 10 carries each of the last 2 weeks. He's incredibly talented. And Washington absolutely needs to run the football to help Dwayne Haskins out. Looking at Geis, 129 yards against Carolina last week. That was boosted by a long run near the end of the game, but it still helps. And the Packers' run defense is the 5th friendliest to fantasy running backs this season. Geis's price tag is on the move, trending upwards. So this might be the last week we can get him at this price. So look to lock in Geis in your lineups. And for me, I'm going to the tight end position, and it's Ian Thomas. Greg Olsen is out. And over the last 6 weeks of the year last year when Olsen wasn't on the field, Thomas caught 32 passes, so about 5 per game, for 44 targets, about 8 targets per game, for 319 yards. Pretty good. About 53 yards per game, and 2 touchdowns. And actually, in that span, he was a tight end 9. He is super, super cheap over on DraftKings at $2,500. 4 for 40 is over 3 times the return, and he could score in this one because Atlanta is not very good. So, Ian Thomas, love the super cheap price tag. We'll go into our Week 14 building block, looking at our teams here. I'll start with Ron's lineups. One guy that he has in both, as it comes as no surprise, Darius Geis, as we mentioned. But the other one being Zach Pascal. He's one of the few healthy Colts receivers left. I actually went with Paris Campbell, so it's interesting we both have Colts receivers, just chose different ones. But I totally get the Zach Pascal love. Tampa Bay stinks against receivers. Pascal is, as I mentioned, one of the healthy receivers left. So, right there it is. Those are Ron's Week 14 building blocks. Looking at mine, I have Ryan Tannehill and Melvin Gordon. I'm not stacking Tannehill with the receivers. I'm just more banking on Tannehill to throw for about 220, run for another 40 or 50. Maybe 3 total touchdowns would be nice. I really like Ryan Tannehill, and as I mentioned earlier, I'm all in on Melvin Gordon this week. I think he could go nuts. He could lead the league in rushing yards this week. We'll go to the final segment here, which is the bold prediction. And of course, it's everybody's favorite segment here. And I'll just go ahead and lead it off. I've talked about him a little bit. I'm going to continue with it and just basically piggyback off what I just said. But Melvin Gordon will lead all running backs in Week 14 in rushing yards, and he'll put up at least 20 fantasy points over on DraftKings. So there you have it. That is all of the information we have here for this week, for the Week 14 edition of the Consistently Cashin podcast. Don't forget, use promo code CC2019 for $5 off your VIP subscription. Hopefully next week I'll have Ron back here with me after a little bit of a layoff. We'll say he was on IR, but we designated him to return. Hopefully we'll see him next week here. But you can always check out the great content over at BigGuyFantasySports.com. And if you have any questions, just reach out on Twitter at Colby Conway or on Twitter at TheRealMade. So once again, best of luck in Week 14 and stay consistent.
Live from State Farm, we have Sharon Flaversham, IT Manager, attempting the 47th of her 100 acts of good. Today's good deed, she will attempt to escort a little old lady across the road. Hands held, elbows interlocked. Steady. And they're across!
It's on the board!
Bravo, Sharon, and bravo to all State Farm employees challenging themselves to get on the board with 100 acts of good. See their stories at neighborhoodofgood.com.
Is your cell phone bill out of control? Then this is your wake-up call. The new TracFone Wireless gives you unlimited talk and text starting at $20 a month, no contract, plus unlimited carryover data with active service. Yep, the new TracFone Wireless. Now you're in control. See terms and conditions at TracFone.com.